The following podcast contains subject matter that may be unsuitable for more sensible viewers. Views expressed here do not reflect that of any community that you would want to be a part of. Listener discretion is mandatory. Mama, what does chickens mean?
No! All right, so let's get this going.
Get this horse and pony show.
Horses don't exist.
This horse and or pony show.
Wait, if horses don't exist, do ponies exist?
I'll have to check my sources on that one, but my guess is no.
If horses don't exist, do little horses exist a little?
I don't think you can say that word, Ree. Ree, you can't call them little horses. No. We're gonna get canceled. And welcome to this week's episode of Tranifesto.
This episode did have some... What's the word for anti-little person sentiment?
Oh, there wasn't there? But it was from John Waters, so I think gets a pass for, like...
Everything John Waters does gets a pass.
With a mustache like that, absolutely.
Well, it's not my place to give that pass away, but it's, I like to assume.
Yeah, no, we'll also be discussing who gets a T-Pass on today's episode. Please stay tuned. Welcome, fucking finally, to this week's episode of Tranifesto, the show that asks the tough questions like, if we throw someone who's gender critical into space, does that make them an astroturf? Joining me today, as usual, our hosts, Amelia, where she's somewhere.
I'm here.
And Ree.
That's me.
You're doing a new thing where you introduce us for us.
Oh, okay. Well, you're going to introduce yourself now. I want to hear you. Go.
I'm Amy. That's my name.
And y'all know me, still the same old Ree.
All right. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's bad. We should cut that.
Yes, absolutely. Would she like to introduce herself?
I think I want two intros, just like everyone else. So one from you, and then one for me.
We have a special
guest,
comedy writer extraordinaire and noted LA person, Joan Haley Ford.
It's true, yes. Hi, I'm Joan Haley Ford. I'm in LA currently, Atwater to be specific, podcasting capital of the world, I've decided.
This is a pro LA podcast.
Wait, since you're an LA person, please tell us which part of LA you're from and how long it took you to drive from where you were to where you are now.
Well, I'm in Atwater, and I'm working from home right now, so I didn't have to drive anywhere. But lucky me.
I remember for a little while I listened to Elijah Schlesinger's podcast, and it was good, but 80% of it was her talking to people about how long it takes to drive from the valley to the city.
Yeah, it's true. It's a lot. It's a big topic of conversation. The freeways dominate our lives.
Perfect. Well, thank you for the two intros. It was perfect.
Thank you.
And the long commute. Thank you for the long commute that it took to get to this podcast. From
my bedroom to my kitchen table.
Actually, yeah, exactly. Thank you for joining us in the Tranifesto recording studio that we definitely have set up. Today, like I said, there's four of us in the show, and we would like to get going kind of just with a brief overview of the movie. And surprisingly, I am a huge horror movie fan, so this was kind of cool to watch this movie, or at least finally get to some horror. And I'd like to do some more as time goes on. But
Girl
this week
was body horror.
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean. We are Cronenberg. We are reviewing the 2004...
Broke sexual assignment resurgery, woke Cronenberging yourself.
We are reviewing the 2004 American supernatural black comedy horror film Seed of Chucky, which is a horror comedy.
The seed in the title refers to his cum.
Yes.
The movie. Maybe the only movie I've seen that opens with the screen being drenched in cum.
Not the first for me.
What's that?
Home movies don't count.
Yeah. Was Avatar? Did that not actually happen in Avatar as well? I swear to God, it did. So yeah, directed by Don Massini,
Yes.
produced by David Kissinger and Corey Senega. So yeah, I
other
would like to kind
Kissinger.
of go the less popular one. So we'd actually like to have Joan kind of give a brief synopsis on everything and just go over the movie. So Joan, if you'd like to.
Sure. As I said, it opens with we see the eponymous Seed of Chucky drenched over the screen, and then we get like an instructional like high school video about the miracle of birth, but it's the miracle of evil doll birth. So we watch Chucky's sperm flowing, like going through, like just go like it's like very like the beginning of Look Who's Talking. Only very like it's like 2004 CGI, which should be much better CGI. Like we've had Return of the King at this point.
I watched this. Actually, I watched this movie with my daughter, so she was asking what that whole opening bit
no.
was about. No, it's okay. So she was looking for a container of milk that got spilled for the entire film.
God bless her.
That's worse.
Yeah.
That's worse than just explaining it.
Kids should be learning about this stuff from fucking Chucky movie.
It was perfect.
Rain
She gave
is
it a
old
4
enough
out
to
of
know
10.
about dog cum.
About doll.
See, honey, when a doll and a doll love each other very much, and only after a voodoo curse has been placed. Anyways, Joan, please continue.
Anyways, and then we see we open up on a dream sequence. Well, what turns out to be a dream sequence where a killer doll that has not been identified yet is murdering a bunch of people, but turns out to be just a dream sequence. Our killer doll who wakes up in a very like Pinocchio-esque situation. I'm going to gender them as they right now because
Yeah,
I think that's appropriate.
That's what the movie is. We are introduced into a doll, a living doll named, who at this point, the only name it's been given is Shithead by the evil, like Chris Angel-esque ventriloquist.
It's Chris
Absolutely.
Angel. Chris Angel meets Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
Oh my
this is, like,
god!
The hero we deserve.
It reminded me of the guy from Being John Malkovich.
yeah. Is Chris
yeah.
Angel and Being John Malkovich?
No, the main character, the John Cusack character, is like a weird puppeteer.
That's right. He is a very like artistic marionette artist. I think he would get upset. That character would get mad if we misidentified
made this
him.
crude comparison.
Yes, he was very proud of his marionette, being the world's finest marionettist. I don't know if that's the right word for that profession, but
No one's going to fact check this. I don't think any of our listeners will fact check this. They're all too drunk or high. So please.
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe you have a big marionettist like listening population you don't know about. You're offending.
Please, we already have to deal with other revolts in the Discord. So we will please marionettists, please don't add us.
Yes. Don't cancel
Anyways.
marionettists. I respect what you do, even if I don't know what you're called. And by the way, yes, this was like there are some like prime like it's 2004 jokes in this movie. We've got like Britney Spears getting murdered at one point. We got Martha Stewart getting executed. Yes, like we're in like, and obviously Chris Angel as a ventriloquist is like we're in hardcore. It's 2004.
I had to look it up to make sure that Britney Spears wasn't actually in this movie, and it was indeed a lookalike.
Yes, it was.
Really?
Yes.
I thought it was her for sure.
It was just a
That's
lookalike.
heartbreaking.
Yeah.
A professional Britney Spears lookalike, which is who I'm trying to be.
It's the most 2004 job I've ever heard.
Britney Spears lookalike. Yeah. Now that's only applicable like in Vegas. You got to take those skills to Vegas. But anyways, so this living doll named Shithead at this point is doesn't know where they come from, who they are. But then they see they have a little mark on the wrist that says like "Made in Japan," which I've never seen a doll that had such a bold like "Made in Japan" tattoo on its wrist. But
Hey, it's 2019. Dolls can get tattooed where they want.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like now, you're right. Now, but in
They were just ahead of their
2004, let's be realistic.
I wish I had a tattoo that every time I looked at it, it just played kabuki music in the background.
But so the doll wants to know where it's from. It's very like it has these. It's this like nice little doll, but also has these murderous impulses. It doesn't know why. long story short, it's watching It's like watching Entertainment Tonight, or I should say, they are watching Entertainment Tonight at some point, like you do. And there is a news report about the new. We're getting very meta here. New Chucky movie is shooting. Entertainment Tonight's doing a big story about the new Chucky movie, which always happen. Always the biggest thing happening in Hollywood gets extensive coverage is they're shooting a fucking Chucky movie. But they so shit-faced, shit decides oh, those are my parents. Chucky has the same made in Japan marking on his wrist. So so it feels so weird keep calling this character, but that's the character's name at this point.
You're dead naming them.
No. Oh, God. Oh, shit.
How dare you? Canceled.
Story. I'm telling a story.
The trans puppet community is going to come after us.
But so they take off. They run away from their puppeteer. We never see that puppeteer again. They don't get any kind of comeuppance. The puppeteer was just a bad person who was ignored for the rest of the movie. The puppet takes off the doll takes off to Hollywood. We don't really see how they get from London to Hollywood. We just watch it like an Indiana Jones plane.
Yeah, I have so many questions about that. How did they get on
the doll got on the plane at some point? I don't know. I mean, this was after 9/11, so I feel like that thing was fucking up.
9/11 completely messed things over for the puppet community.
Yes, yes.
I feel bad for them.
Cannot get on planes anymore. And
I think I profiled by TSA agents.
Yes, I'm sure there's some I'm sure there was some scene cut where the doll pretended to be someone else, but at that point the doll doesn't even know. The doll isn't aware that it's a murderous doll. I think it just thinks of itself as a living thing. So would it even know to disguise itself? Would it even know to be I need to pretend to be a doll so people don't flip the fuck out?
No, that was exactly what I was. That was what I was going to say about the doll has to pretend to be somebody else at the airport. Just puts on a fucking mustache.
Well, that's a relatable trans experience. Yeah, of having to pretend to be a
doll.
Does have
the doll does have a. He does have a crotch anomaly that.
Oh yeah.
Might get brought up in the X-ray.
Yeah.
It flashes up on the screen. I've had that happen.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're back in Hollywood. Jennifer Tilly's in the new Chucky movie. She's not happy about it. Jennifer Tilly is playing Jennifer Tilly, as well as
she's
Tiffany.
Gorgeous, by the way.
Yes. Oh, always.
Love her.
In her prime.
What's that? Oh, I watch Cult of Chucky. She's in all the Chucky movies. She still looks so good. She is I don't know what she's doing. Maybe she is. Maybe some of that Chucky voodoo magic rubbed off on her. She's just not aging. She looks amazing. But she's unhappy. She's not happy to be in this shitty Chucky movie. The movie's having a little bit of fun, poking fun at itself, and she wants to get a role in Red Man. We all remember Red Man, right? Of Method in Red, and
of course,
another 2004 moment.
Yes, as a rapper. Yes, as the movie always keeps reminding us, he's a filmmaker and rapper.
The men, Red and Method.
Yes.
And also, as an interesting fact, it was originally offered to Quentin Tarantino to play himself in that role, but he turned it down.
God.
That's insane. That's insane. Quentin Tarantino turned down he did Little Nicky, but he would not do Seed of Chucky. Where I think those are bad.
Oh, he did, didn't he? Oh God, he did.
Yes, he was that.
I forgot about that.
Yes, I think that's bad priority.
See, I think he would have been perfect for the role.
Oh, of Quentin Tarantino, bored to play. Does that make more sense? I don't know. I don't know if I like to dream about what could have been, but. I would have, but anyways, Red Man's making a biblical epic, and he's looking for a new star to play the Virgin Mary. Jennifer Tilly really wants the part, so she concocts a scheme where essentially she's gonna there's some bad Hollywood politics in here where it's Jennifer Tilly's gonna concoct a scheme to fuck Red Man so she can play the Virgin Mary in his biblical epic. Not really the way it goes.
Honestly, one of the only funny, really funny bits in this movie is when her friend is you're gonna do that, you're gonna slut it out to play the Virgin Mary or something like that.
Yes,
that was good.
Yes, that's good. The only other part that I genuinely laugh at is when John Waters, as the paparazzi, yells to Jennifer Tilly, like, "How old are you? Give us your exact birth date." Like, I don't know why, but it's John
Do you want
Waters.
me to draw
John
a picture
Waters.
for you? Get her a piece of paper.
But
So
he
anyway,
fucking rules.
Meanwhile, so she's concocted the scheme. The doll, the gender fluid doll, it shows up on set to meet his parents. He doesn't realize they're just props in a movie, but they say I'm gonna get so much trouble for what I'm.
The pronouns are all over the place in the movie too.
It's okay.
Yes. The puppet's currently living, says a voodoo curse that was on a locket that they found in the cemetery where it was born. By the way, yes, the doll was born in a cemetery in Bride of Chucky. Important detail. And says it, and it brings Chucky and Tiffany to life, who are, of course, the murderous dolls from Bride of Chucky, and then Chucky was in 3 previous Child's Play movies. And then after that, like, it just becomes about, basically the movie becomes like, is the doll, is Shithead Shithead is not sure of its own gender. It was not born with genitals. I don't know why, because clearly the other 2 dolls had genitals because they fucked and produced a child. I don't know why, like, that was the one.
Chucky does come in this, like, insinuating at the beginning and then implicitly later in the middle.
Explicit. Chucky
and
comes.
it was
Chucky fucks.
And it's like the most on-brand jerk-off session, but we'll get to that in a
And
moment.
Chucky also jerks off a lot. Like, enough to, like, have used up a lot of the material that was in a stranger's bathroom.
I will also say, other I think solid laugh in the movie is that Chucky chooses to jerk off to an issue of Fangoria.
I was gonna say that was big Matt's energy.
Absolutely.
Right there. That was big
man.
Madeline energy.
Who amongst us has not jerked off to Fangoria? I mean, absolutely.
Oh yeah, about 1999, like Killer Condoms just come out. There's some good spreads in there. Yeah, classic.
Set me on the right path. Actually, jerking off to Fangoria is why I'm trans. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, there is the warning on the issue at the beginning of every Fangoria. If you jerk off to this, you will become trans.
Exactly. So thank you, Wolfman.
Yeah. Have you all read the new Fangoria is super classy. It's got Paul Thomas Anderson interviewing Jordan Peele.
Oh shit!
Wow.
Oh, I gotta order that.
Yeah, if you're a horror, serious plug now for the new Fangoria. Yes, it's very good. The most recent issue is Jordan Peele interviewing Ari Aster. They got a lot of big directors kind of doing roundtables with each other and telling each other
and
how.
If you go to fangoria.com and use the promo code Tranifesto, you can get.
By the way, right now, 1-year subscription for Fangoria on sale, $69.
Nice.
The Fangoria did also put out a Pride T-shirt this year, the Fangoria in rainbow colors, which is if I'm going to be on board for any corporate pride, that's the corporate pride I'm on board.
That's exactly what I said.
Yes. Thank you for seeing me, Fangoria.
Thank you for the representation.
Yes, thank you for representation is important in Fangoria. And for 5 seconds in a Spider-Man movie. Chucky thinks that their offspring is clearly a boy, names them Glenn. Tiffany, meanwhile, thinks they're clearly a girl, names them Glenda.
A fun reference.
Yes, another
fun Glenda.
Yeah.
There's a couple good references, references to Queer Cinema of the past, or because we get the Glenn and Glenda, and then the movie opens with a couple psycho references. So it's
There's
kind of operating.
There's a few psychos in there, a few psycho references.
Yes, there was the shower to begin with, and then there was the would never hurt a fly when the doll has a little fly on its hand. So Tiffany is you're a girl, and we're not going to murder people anymore. And she tries to encourage her to do that, Glenda to do that. Chucky, meanwhile, is you're a boy, and murdering's in our, it's a family tradition that we're going to do.
Murdering is masculinity.
Yes, yes. So that's what Chucky thinks. But
That's
maybe
what a lot of
Chucky
guys think.
will be proven wrong by the end of this movie.
Have you?
Oh, can I take a pause to mention
Yeah.
that Glenn/Glenda is voiced by Billy Boyd, aka Pippin,
Yes.
1 year after Return of the King was released.
Oh,
yes.
fun.
This was the next step from Lord of the Rings for that individual.
Mary got lost.
That's rough.
Pippin got this.
A real downturn in that career.
Yeah.
Is it though?
I don't know. Yeah, which movie are we talking? I mean, which movie are we talking about more today? Right now it's this one. Where was I? Yeah. So there's a lot of antics going on. Tiffany is trying a 12-step program to stop killing, and there's a lot of hilarious scenes where she calls she's like, oh, you have to apologize to the people you hurt. So she calls up the widows of people she murdered and apologizes. Meanwhile, Chucky's taking Glenn/Glenda to murder John Waters. With some solid face melting effects. Maybe probably the best gore in the movie.
Very Indiana Jones.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So and that's also where they kill Britney Spears in a funny gag. And Chucky said after Chucky runs Britney Spears off the road and her car fucking explodes. He gives us an oops, I did it again once again. So that's choice 2004
Very
humor.
2004 moment right there.
Yes. So long story short, Chucky and Tiffany decide they're gonna put their souls into Redman and Jennifer Tilly because then they'll be human, and then also Chucky's going to impregnate Jennifer Tilly with his doll cum, so they can so Glenn or Glenda will have a body.
It's the miracle
that
of
happens.
life.
Chucky masturbates on screen. The on-screen masturbation we were waiting 15 years for at that point. The first Child's Play came out in 1988. When are we going to see this doll masturbate?
Let dolls jerk off.
Let dolls do it. I guess is there any masturbating in Meet the Feebles? I can't remember.
I don't know.
There probably is. Speaking of Peter Jackson, Tiffany takes Chucky's cum, impregnates Jennifer Tilly. Jennifer Tilly wakes up and she's pregnant, and she immediately accuses. She thinks she fucked Redman last night. She did not. Chucky and Tiffany knocked them both out. And they woke up and they're like, oh, we forgot what happened. We must have fucked. We were attacked by killer puppets.
I mean,
to be fair, that's the kind of thing you forget about.
I've had nights like that.
I was saying, to be fair, which one of us hasn't woken up with a vague memory but waking up next to Redman? That was
classic, more classic 2004 problems. You were always next to Redman.
You ever just wake up next to Redman?
Yes. So Jennifer Tilly wakes up pregnant. She thinks Redman is to blame. I'm pretty sure that's not how pregnancy works. I'm pretty sure you don't fuck somebody and then you register as pregnant 3 hours later.
It was an accelerated voodoo pregnancy, but also you would think that Jennifer Tilly would know a little bit more about her own anatomy.
Yes. She didn't know it was a voodoo pregnancy at that point.
Yeah, but she wouldn't be pregnant the next day.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But she immediately.
I don't think any of us are qualified to fully weigh in on pregnancy, but.
Don't you invalidate me. Please, don't invalidate me.
I've been pregnant hundreds of times.
I knew it. As soon as I fucking said it.
Cancel.
But, true. But Jennifer Tilly's immediately blames Redman. Redman says, no, I'm pretty sure he says it's not his. And that also she can't be in the movie. She can't play Virgin Mary if she's pregnant. This pisses off Tiffany, who's like Redman's a bad dude.
It's the Virgin Mary is pregnant. That's the whole point.
Yes, I know. That's the irony. That's the irony of it. So she kills Redman. Chucky comes back to the house. They get into an argument about who's been killing who. This sets off Glenn/Glenda, to which point they finally fully adopt the Glenda personality, and we find out Glenda, the Glenda side of them is the murderous, vengeful, the one who has daydreams about murdering people.
Very
that's
feminist.
Yeah, women. Yes. Am I right?
Yes. So Glenn's a good boy. Glenda is a bad girl. Those are the two personalities in them that are at war. Jennifer Tilly has her sped up pregnancy. She gives birth to twins, so that kind of gives Glenn/Glenda can like choose now, but I guess not, because now we just put like both put both personalities in one baby, because I guess that's how that works. Anything's possible with a voodoo pregnancy. But Chucky decides at the last second. Chucky decides he doesn't want to put his body into a human. He's like, I'm happy. I'm happy in my doll body.
Body positivity from Chucky.
What's that?
Body positivity from Chucky.
Yes, body positivity. All body types are beautiful, even plastic ones. He says he wants to decide, I want to stay in this doll body. Tiffany doesn't like that. She kills Chucky. Next day, she's in the hospital. But Tiffany and Glenn/Glenda are there too. They do voodoo curse her. So now Tiffany is in Jennifer Tilly's body. Cut to 5 years later. Tiffany is living as Jennifer Tilly in the Hollywood Hills. It's all happy, and she has 2 kids now. She has her 2 human children, Glenn, who's like a nice boy, Glenda, who's a bad girl. She murders her help. She murders her nanny when the nanny tells Jennifer Tilly that her daughter Glenda is bad news. And then we get so that seems like it should be the end of the movie, but then there's like another scene where it's Glenn and Glenda's birthday. Glenn opens a present and it's like Chucky's arm, and it attacks Glenn, and that's the end. That's the story of Seed of Chucky.
Perfect. Thank you.
Very good. Very good.
That's probably one of the most thorough and well thought out synopses that we've ever had on the show. Normally, it's all of us just trying to like stumble through. So thank you very much for that.
Oh my gosh! Well, there's a lot to remember in this hour and 20-minute movie.
Right.
It's just the summary for girl was there's like this Dutch girl, and then she cuts her dick off, and it's bad.
Very streamlined.
She's not Dutch. She's Belgian.
I think she, but like Dutch Belgian, the worst kind of Belgian.
If you basically want to recreate the movie Girl, you just have to kind of like go into your vegetable crisper and just crack a piece of celery, and that's pretty much the movie. And anyways, I think like a really good question to kind of put out at this point in time, because this is a very weird horror franchise. So why the hell are we reviewing this film? Well,
because it's gay
in a lot of ways. For starters, the idea of gender identity and how that works out with the child doll, and also too even some of the background regarding the film as well, which I believe the director was gay.
Yes, Don Mancini, who wrote the first Child's Play movie when he was like in his mid-20s. The first movie came out in '88. He wrote the first Child's Play movie. I think even back then he was living as like an openly gay man in Hollywood, and he's actually stuck with this franchise through like the seven films that are part of this like iteration of it. There was a new Child's Play movie that came out this summer that he was not involved with. That kind of reimagined who and what Chucky was. But I do think it's like that's kind of when I pitched this as a film to you, that's kind of why my like interest in the Chucky franchise is kind of rekindled, because I think there was and I think we'll probably get into this, but admittedly it's messy. There's a lot to talk about, and this is a messy film. The franchise in general is messy with how it deals with queer ideas and queer identity. At the same time, I think there is something sad to me about there's this franchise that this queer man was able to kind of shepherd through 3 decades that is now like something else. Although I guess there is still going to be a continuation of this version of Chucky in a TV show, but that's kind of why I was there's something that rattled me about they're doing this new Chucky that is divorced from any of the queerness that Don Mancini worked for 30 years to really bake into this film series.
Yeah, well, is this because I think, I've only seen the first one a while ago, so is there any other queer themes as explicitly as it is in this movie and in the previous ones?
I would say not quite like the previous ones. There was in Bride of Chucky, there is like an openly and one of the first I can remember really seeing in a big budget mainstream Hollywood horror movie. There is a gay character in the movie, and he's treated other than he does eventually become a victim of Chucky and Tiffany's wrath, but like it's not like it's for 98 it wasn't like it was a pretty like humane treating of the character. It was a pretty like it wasn't like a big deal that there was like a gay character in this movie. He was just like kind of like a character that like existed alongside the others, which I know is like kind of like saying that now is like a very low bar. That
I mean for the 90s,
At 98, it was pretty cool.
Which is all the more of a bummer, the fact that like the original version of the screenplay got shut down by the studio, because I mean like not necessarily. It's not saying that like a gay man can like automatically tell a good story about gender identity, but like especially at that period, like I would trust him more with something like this than anyone else.
Yeah, and it's sort of interesting, like the way that this franchise was like birthed and created and molded by a gay man, but he still was not like acting alone. Like he had a lot of pressure from the studio. Like we should talk about the way that the script sort of evolved from what it was originally going to be.
Yeah, and also too, like just as an interesting side note to the idea of like queerness in horror. I like the idea that like I don't know, like I find when I think of like love letters to horror from queer individuals, I can't help but think of a Rocky Horror Picture Show, even though arguably whether that's horror or not. But
also like the obvious choice.
But Joan, like, do you find that is like the queer community generally has a pretty big love of horror?
Yeah, I really do. I find that in general, and I'm a big horror fan, and I will go to a lot. I go to like a lot of the conventions out here. I do find it, like there is a kind of big like queer community centered around the horror franchise, it's I don't want to say it's like a love-hate relationship, but I think there is there's not a lot of examples of queer people being treated like very well in horror films.
Yeah, for sure. But there still is we still are able to find something in there and identify with characters, even if in the text they aren't treated that well. The fact that they're there and the fact that
because that was what I was going to ask. It's like so if it's one of those things where the queer community is very avidly a fan of horror for the most part, why did you think that would be? Is it just the fact of the matter? It's the idea of like being in a state of terror, surrounded by other people, or like things like body horror? I know we joked about Cronenberg, but fucking.
But I don't think Cronenberg is too far off the mark. I do think. I mean, I think a little bit of it is that, and I see it especially with older queer people. I think like if you were growing up in like the 70s, 80s, 90s, these horror movies were sometimes the only places where you would see especially mainstream stuff where you would see really explicitly queer characters, and good or bad, and the representations were maybe not were rarely tasteful.
Yeah, like even if they die really quickly.
Yeah, but they were still there. It was still a genre where I think we as a community were being acknowledged. Yeah. And I think when you don't have representation, when you have basically no representation, any representation becomes kind of important. So even if we look back, at these movies and say and through the lens of 2019, we can identify very very simply what's problematic with them. Mm-hmm. At the same time, in even 2004, you might see these movies and say well, at least there I am on screen, and also at least I'm like a lot of these are movies where these characters have some agency and are like doing things for themselves. They're not just characters who things like happen to or are like jokes. Like
yeah,
I think
and
to
build on that, I think that there's something about horror movies, but also more broadly like monster movies, the way that they engage with societal fears and the way that they sort of tap into those undercurrents of marginalization in society, even if they do them in ways that end up punching down, they still present this sort of narrative that allows you to insert yourself into it as that marginalized person.
Well, if you're already talking about something that's horrific, then it's easy to talk about something that people are already uncomfortable with, like regardless of if that's justified or not.
And it's also like a lot of these like a lot of horror characters are queer coded, even if they aren't explicitly queer. A lot of
we love our Disney villains.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
like I think that it's like sort of a universal experience of being a marginalized person in like Western society, at least, to like identify with a lot of the villains and monsters in these movies. And like not to get like off on too big a tangent, but like The Shape of Water, I think kind of flips this on its head in a really good way, and sort of as a comparison to as like a monster movie that makes the monster like explicitly sympathetic and sort of engages with the way that it's representing like marginalized people.
And
I think that it makes sense why we would identify with these
And
characters.
I would say like one last thought I had on this as well, which is just I think it's great because and like as time goes on is that horror is often viewed as like a junk genre. So you can have someone like, in terms of recent memory, Jordan Peele, who comes on, who shows that you can take things that might be, hard to stomach for a white audience, and present it in a way that's universally understandable. And I would like to see that more, especially with queer themes going on. But yeah, so the other idea is just like, do we think that the child doll are they intersex? Is it gender fluid? Like, anybody have any thoughts?
They're a non-binary icon.
Yes.
Well, no. Okay, so they have weird hair, just bizarre makeup choices. Are explicitly like non-binary or gender fluid, and also add random Japanese into all their languages. They're non-binary.
Yes, I think the most explicit like statement we get from the character about themselves is when they say, sometimes I feel like a boy and sometimes I feel like a girl. And then something I will say I do like about this movie that that the queer stuff it is able to get into is kind of like putting like onus on the parents, or kind of, lightly making fun of the idea of parents, forcing gender upon a kid.
The problem isn't that the kid is gender fluid or whatever they happen to be. The problem is sort of that the parents are keep trying to impose gender and like project their own hopes for what this kid is going to be onto this kid.
Yes.
Which is like an interesting take on it, and like makes the whole movie like much more sympathetic to like the gender diversity of that character than I expected it to be.
Agreed. I mean, like I say, this is a messy movie, but it is rewatching this again, because I hadn't seen this in like maybe since it came out like 15 years ago. But it's interesting that, or I like the fact that, at the end of the day, Glenn/Glenda doesn't really come off as a freak character. I feel they are a character who's like pushed to extremes by like the society in this film being to other killer puppets are like imposing upon them. I do think, problematic, like still acknowledging the problematic stuff within the movie, it's a pretty generous view, depiction of a character like this, especially for the time.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, like there's like one thing I think that's kind of interesting on that is the fact that the gender nonconformity is juxtaposed to like, murder. Like the fact that like, this, like, they are very sane in comparison to their parents, and like having that juxtaposition as opposed to what it typically is having, like, if you just had, like the queer person who like jumped between like personalities and murdered people compared to like quotation marks normal people, that would be different.
Right. But here it feels like it's very much the stress of like having to like fulfill these two very different set of expectations is what's like kind of driving, like, quote unquote, like driving them a little crazy. So yeah.
No, cool. I like also too. Like, actually, Joan, I hadn't thought of it that way in terms of the sympathetic character. But now that I think of it that way, especially with the idea of like, there's that moment where the character breaks and it's almost like they become that Norman Bates stereotype of just the mother sort of thing. But yeah, no, I mean, like, I guess, like, if we look at it, their parents being insane, it almost felt like that was added in by the studio, which is funny. Like, it feels like that part was like, okay, we can't actually explore this as much as the director and the writer originally wanted to.
Well, that's the point of reference that people had at the time for, like, if you wanted to talk about trans people or, like, gender nonconforming people, the thing you were going to go to was, like, Boys Don't Cry, Crying Game, Psycho, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't, and it's hard to say exactly like where the line is between what the studio forced upon Don Mancini and what was just like, at times it feels like there are maybe like too many like warring ideas in this film to ever make a coherent statement about anything, because I think like at some point he wants to play with the idea that Glenn/Glenda is like gender is gender fluid, and his parents are kind of like one of the ones forcing them to make a choice. But at the same time, I think he thought it might be fun to play with the idea that the Glenda personality, the feminine one, is the one that is more like Chucky. And that should be like a mind, like like a little bit of a mind fuck for him, where it's like, oh, like I thought murdering was a thing that came from like my side of the family, but it turns out, or my gender, it turns out like that killing can be a feminine feature too, which is like, it's like that combined with the gender fluid stuff, like it just paints like at the end of the day, it's like I can see kind of what he's doing in both directions.
Yeah, that could be a really interesting arc.
Yeah, but
it does get confusing when it gets sort of mashed together. Like it's not got, like, the movie itself or the script winds up not really having a coherent idea of what it's trying to do.
Well, because if this movie came out now, like, if they did the I don't know what I am line, like, you'd get all of these fucking internet chuds saying that it's forced diversity, or like a clumsy shoehorned in line to like,
that's a good point.
To make an appeal to queer people, rather than at this point that was like maybe like one of the few pieces of like genuine queer content that survived through a watering down process.
That's a good point. Is the fact that if this was made today, it like these little like gender things would be seen as this like political
kinda
statements.
Which is, and when this kind of came out, I remember this coming out, and I don't think it had any kind of, the response to it was honestly like kind of like tepid. There was no like, I think you're right. If this came out today, there would be a much bigger kind of response to it, especially the fact that like, we're inserting like very queer themes into a franchise that up until this point was like, that wasn't so explicit. But it was just like kind of like a campy, fun horror movie that like people saw it and see, and then kind of like left the face of the earth.
Yeah, and the gender themes are just there and kind of interesting or strange, but not like a big deal.
And at the time, like, it definitely would have been flushed in with like somewhere between, like, I feel like the first Saw movies were coming around then, as well as like the movies, like the scary movies and such. That would be like, it'd be kind of shoehorned between these two worlds of horror movies at the time.
Yeah, but I mean, and like the scary movies are like an interesting counterpoint, where like those are so those are like so homophobic, and that was just like so chill at the time. Like 2004, like the stuff they get away with in the scary movies are like crazy. So like this is like for the horror comedy genre at the time. This was like
Whoa.
a pretty big like step forward. Like I say, it's always hard to say. It's always like hard to realize that through the lens of like it's 2019, but like it was.
Well, I mean, like trans stuff is right now is kind of where gay stuff was in 2004, where like people kind of know enough about it, and everybody knows like one gay person or like one trans person. So then like people are making these like really bad, really clumsy jokes that aren't like, you know, explicitly hateful, but they just suck.
Yeah. So like I don't know. There's just something interesting to me about like watching, seeing this like thing that came out like 14 years ago that were like in a imperfect way was still like kind of like grappling with these with ideas way ahead of its time, and in a way that was I mean it was like like we said, it was very kind of like weighed down by what the studio wanted, but it was still like there. And it's to this day, like it's interesting. Like to this day, the studios that are making the Chucky films are still like kind of like distance themselves from this one. Like they wouldn't explicitly let the follow up to this, which was Curse of Chucky. He wanted to put in stuff about how like Tiffany missed their kid. They missed they had become distance from Glenn and Glenda, and she wasn't seeing them anymore. And the studio was like, no, we don't want any like tie back to this, like specific tie back to this movie.
Like just forget it. Like we don't want it to be part of the continuity.
I mean, I guess technically it is still part of the continuity, because I guess within the world of the Chucky movies, Tiffany is still in Jennifer Tilly's body, and now Jennifer Tilly is just a murderer, but so that part of it's still there. But any mention of Glenn or Glenda is gone.
Oh, yeah. Before I forget, my name for the good version of this movie that was never made, where it's actually about like like the complex like dialectics of gender and like serial killerness. Assigned Killer at Birth. Think about it.
Oh, that's
I love it.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's good.
What other like queer horror movie titles could we like? What other movie titles could we like queer up?
Can we please have like a really like highbrow slasher film about a trans protagonist?
Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh.
What if though? Like, how could you even do that? That wouldn't be like immediately, multiple personality, crazy tranny like thing that we've seen 1,000
would
times.
Be queer and present danger.
Maybe she's like an eco-terrorist.
Yeah. There's a lot of good, like I think Queer Bait's a good name for a horror movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, it is.
Trans Panic.
Yes, I'm only saying
a trans sex worker that kills men that try to kill her, and like you think that she's going around killing people, but it's actually every single one of them has been in self-defense.
God, that's awesome.
I love that.
No, we could do that.
I'm only putting this out here because I have written a script. I'm not going to talk about it, but I do have a script called Dead Name that I want to get.
That's
yes.
Good.
Oh.
But yeah, it's just like someone will. I'm trademarking that, right? I'm just saying, yeah. But I have a short film that I've written called Dead Name, trying to get it produced. But yeah, that's
it's on record now.
It's okay.
It's on record.
Heard it here first.
Well, there was they did make that one movie about me actually. That was about my transition. They just called it The Thing. So that worked out pretty well. That was terrible. All right, so segueing just a little bit over as well, and kind of zooming out. Chucky, I didn't realize this as well. Was like Chucky as like the whole franchise is queer. So please, if you could elaborate a bit more. I know we touched on it.
Sure. So, I mean, just in general, like since Bride of Chucky, and more so in these like he's done 2 direct to like digital Chucky movies since Seed of Chucky, feature a lot of like just more like explicitly like queer characters. There's like in Curse of Chucky, there's a lesbian couple, and in Cult of Chucky there's a really cool character. There's like one of the orderlies at the mental institution where it takes place is gay, and like it's not really a thing, it's just like he's a character that's there. So this is like, I'm gonna say like spoiler alert for the end of Cult of Chucky if anyone's gonna watch that. Is everyone here okay with getting the Cult of Chucky spoiled?
I
think
with
I will
that.
survive
I'm
somehow.
gonna just stick my
Okay,
fingers in my ears.
okay. Well, for those who don't want to know, leave the room right now. So the twist in Cult of Chucky is that Chucky can now possess like multiple things. Like he like, so there are like multiple Chuckies like wandering around. But at the end of the movie, he puts himself into the body this woman Nika, who is the protagonist, who is like the protagonist of the last of Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, and now she is Chucky is like living within the body of a human woman, and he ends up, and like the movie ends with like him and Tiffany, who's in Jennifer Tilly's body, like driving away as a couple, and it's like this like moment of Chucky being like this, like I'm into this. This is new, but it feels right, and like that's who the main Chucky is now. Is the soul of murderer Charles Lee Ray in the body of this young woman who's in a relationship with Jennifer Tilly. Still, like, explaining it still sounds very messy,
So
but like,
Chucky's trans.
yeah, Chucky is. I think we could say Chucky is trans.
God.
Chucky is a trans woman.
It's canon.
If the Babadook,
Yeah, it is. It is.
if
It's
the Babadook
absolutely
can become an
canon.
LGBT icon, then I see no reason that Chucky can't become a trans icon.
But only like lesbian Chucky.
Lesbian Chucky.
Like
Oh yeah.
post-transition
Chucky.
lesbian Chucky.
Oh, but like I will like it's worth checking out. If you don't watch the whole movie, maybe just watch it's on Netflix. Watch the last 5 minutes, because trans lesbian Chucky has a very cool look. She's got like a trench coat, or like a trench coat with like a long red scarf and like red heel and like big red heels, and I'm like, that's a Halloween costume.
A transient icon.
Yes,
I love
transient
that.
icon.
See, like,
Chucky.
I think the potential of the Child's Play series is that like the rules around Chucky's powers seem completely arbitrary, so it just opens itself up to everything.
Yes. Also, Chucky's motivation seems totally arbitrary. He spends the first 3 movies being like, I need to get out of this fucking doll body. I hate this doll body. And by the one we watched, he was like, I love my doll body. I'm here to stay. And then
It's about coming to terms with being in a non-normative body, which is a very queer theme.
Oh my god!
It is.
Learning to accept yourself.
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I love this movie now.
Yeah. I should say she now. 2 films later, she is in a new body, living a new life, and she's happier than ever. So
She figured out that she didn't want to be in a
I-
human body. She wanted to be in a female body.
Yeah,
Yes,
opened
that's-
up a nice little gluten-free bakery in downtown Sacramento, and it's just
and she's still killing on
Wearing
the side. It's still a
flannel.
hobby.
Started
Yeah,
with softball.
she is played by the daughter of Brad Dourif, who is the voice of the original Chucky. So it's like all very cool, all very like keep it in the family. I love it. But yeah, it's like I say, the whole franchise messy, but I still love that it's here.
Mm-hmm.
Something to play with. Sorry, I was just trying to find this picture of the fucking. I want to see this ending look for the fucking Chucky doll. Oh shit, that's a good look.
Oh, that is a
Oh,
good
that
look.
is a good look.
Yeah.
If the studios, which I assume they all are listening to the show because they should be, if they're listening to this, like, can you just make trans Chucky canon with this character? This would be so awesome.
Well, she's absolutely that she is specifically
Yeah, exactly.
trans. Yes, make that cat.
Oh, that'd be
But I do know that so like this continuity is being carried on in a sci-fi channel series where I think that's who we're going to be following. We're going to be following Nika Chucky, which I think is her like fan branding. So like I'm excited for that.
This reminds me of like this horrible brainworm that's in the back of my head is that we're eventually going to get a Hannibal style series about Buffalo Bill.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, because that's kind of where I'm seeing is that like trans representation's gonna get better, but it's also gonna get like so bad. Like we're gonna get so much of that kind of shit.
Yeah, and
like I just can't. I don't trust it to be good, but I trust it to be like terrible in a fun way.
Yes, and I will always say I'm a big proponent of like I don't mind like I think like the killers, the like Freddy Kruegers and the like Chuckies of the world. Those are the parts that are fun. Those are like the fun parts, and like I'm not opposed to the idea of a like. Give me. I'll go watch like a trans slash. Still watch a trans slasher movie, but give me a tasteful trans slasher. Give me like a trans slasher with like other stuff where like the fact that they're a slasher has nothing to do with them being like trans.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was just like, girl came pretty close, but that was the best I could think of.
Self slasher.
Like, have y'all seen? Do you know about the sleepaway camp movies?
Yes.
Wait, movies?
So, like,
I thought there was only one.
No, there's 3 of them.
Oh no, that's 3 episodes for us to do.
Oh.
But like first movie, bad. Second movie, they reintroduce Angela as she's the killer again. But now her motivation, she's still trans. She's still trans. It's dicey with these movies, but within the world of the second one, she is trans. So I'm calling her trans. And her whole her like character game is that like she's a really like intense camp counselor, and if you break the camp rules, she murders you. And I'm like, yes, like that's good motive. It's like it has nothing to do with the fact that she's like trans and she's crazy. It's just like she's like break those camp rules and you end up I'm gonna run you over with a truck. And it's like, yes, that's the kind of trans slasher I can get behind.
It's Camp Krusty all over again. It's so good.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, perfect. So I think we've had probably one of the best in-depth analysis of horror and queerness in general. But we'd like to go to the verdict.
In history.
So how do we feel about this representation? Anybody want to go first? No?
It's my favorite thing that happens.
Real bottom energy in the room right now. All right, I'll go first.
Yeah.
So,
hey, I introed this. At least I get switch credit.
So as far as representation goes, I mean, this is good for the time. And like, just to tangent a little bit, this sort of reminded me of like anybody watch the new ContraPoints video about transgenders?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Well, basically, there's literally a non-binary, like a very ridiculous non-binary character who every time they talk, there's kabuki music playing in the background.
The kabuki music really made that video. Like, it just wouldn't have been.
Yeah. But the fact that also happens to Glenda, like that, Glenn/Duh, happened, like that really made it for me. Like, I think that, especially if I were like, a young gender questioning person, I would find this a lot of fun. And plus the fact that I would expect a character like this to be very shoehorned or to be like played as a joke, but the fact that John Waters is a cameo ties it to this broader canon of like, well, John Waters isn't necessarily horror, but it is movies that queer horror people like consistently. And that ties it to a broader canon, and I think that I would feel very validated by this, even though it is still trashy by any standards.
That's very fair.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. Like, I think I was sort of impressed, in a way, by the way they handled, like, the non-binary character. Like, that one line where Glenda/Glenn is talking to Tiffany and is like, can't I just be both? And Tiffany says, well, some people, and then Chucky cuts her off. But, like, there are nods to the fact that this isn't just, like, a joke. That this is, like, a queer theme that is being put here deliberately. And I think that, like we said, we have to give it some credit for 2004.
Well, exactly, because we get the benefit of hindsight at this point in time. And it's always, like, harder to, like, the further away the movie is, the harder it is to kind of, like, almost fairly judge it. Because, like you said, like, this movie is from 2004, so the fact that they would even approach that, I can't think of any like mainstream movie that did that around that time. So I mean, like, yeah, there was I would say there's some rough around the edges jokes, but like the part of getting to good representation is figuring out all the things that don't work first. So yeah, I think this was,
It didn't seem like it was done in bad faith.
exactly. Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm not a fan of the Chucky franchise in general, but like, it had some funny moments. I chuckled with it, and like, I don't know, I may actually go back and watch the rest of the series now just to kind of get the idea of what's happening.
And yeah, I agree. And I think not only is it, interesting to look at this as, like it's an artifact of 2004 and we're giving a lot of credit for its time, but it's also like, I think it's interesting as a piece of a like larger of a larger franchise that is like slowly like moving towards, better, more inclusive, like queer representation. And this is a very important, kind of, imperfect but important, like stepping stone on that journey. And I think it makes it the kind of, not just in the hindsight of this being a 2004 movie, but this being a like kind of one of the middle movies in the Chucky franchise, makes it very interesting. It makes it very interesting as a, moving on, as a stepping stone. And I also like, I don't want all my like queer themes and queer representation to exist only within, like I said, like the Transparents or the Boys Don't Cry of the world.
Yeah.
I want
absolutely.
like fun horror movies about myself and my community. And I'd rather have, this is way better than nothing. I'm glad, I want this kind of like, I want to be kind of working to the point where we can have this kind of like campy, fun, positive representation. So I appreciate the movie for,
Well, for like
moving along,
helping
like
carve a
that
space for that.
And plus, like, that's kind of like the whole theme of this podcast is that bad takes or bad attempts are kind of good.
Yeah, and they
Yes.
can also at least be enjoyable if you can view them through a certain lens as well. Yeah, no, so
Agreed.
Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky. God, there's too many fucking movies.
It's the cum one, not the wife
yeah.
one.
Yeah, come watch the Cum Chucky, Cum Town Chucky.
There is
Yeah, so come
there is
check.
cum
Come
in-
check.
There is cum in Bride of Chucky, but it's not like as there's not so much cum. The one with most cum.
Oh, so you can count me out of watching that.
Yeah.
Remember, this is come chuck, not come chug.
Yeah.
Get back to me when they make a movie with
Yeah,
more
exactly.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is mostly cum.
The Blob gets redone for 2020, and it's just like a whole mound of cum,
Yeah.
just like devouring everything in its path.
The fact that there's not like a cum monster horror movie is a travesty.
I wonder if they could just repurpose Cookie Monster to be like Cum Monster. Or something.
If you think about it, we're all cum monsters.
Be the
No.
cum monster you want to see in the world. Perfect. So that pretty much finishes up this week's episode on a note of cum. Thank you all again for joining us. Just a couple things to kind of get out of the way before we get going. Our Patreon is still going. We are working on some new episodes to be releasing early to people, and we're looking into the possibility of just having Patreon exclusives as well. So that would be pretty cool.
We need enough Patreon money to fund one bottle of wine for me per episode.
Yes, exactly. We please feed.
Well,
rate-
V, if you would just steal that ketamine from your vet, maybe we wouldn't have to buy liquor.
Oh yeah. So Ree works at a vet now, and we're trying to convince it. Ree, can you please steal the ketamine? Please, just do it.
Please, please don't record. Like, now that you officially have a recording of me, like, being asked to commit a crime at my day job.
Yeah. So be cool for 5 seconds and fucking do it.
Like, we have
you know?
just these giant bottles of, like, scissor. It's great.
It's podcast fuel.
If we're gonna make it in LA, it's the only way to do it. So yes, thank you all again. Joan, is there anything you want to kind of plug as well at the end here?
Yeah, this is going to come out about 2 weeks from now. So what's going on for you then?
I'll be at Comic-Con in 2 weeks, covering it for Nerdist. I write for the Nerdist website, and then you can find my personal stuff at Joan Haley Ford on Twitter and mostly Instagram. I'm mostly on Instagram, and the lights in my apartment are going crazy, so I'm worried that we're having another earthquake. So
Uh-oh.
yeah,
Oh God.
Plugging this
Well,
earthquake.
if you die right now, it's nice that this is your final piece of media.
I'm so
Yeah,
happy
talking
with
about
my-
puppet cum.
I'm so happy with my last words being mostly about doll cum. Put it on my.
Perfect. So thank you again for joining us.
I'm like,
Oh, are you? How much are you allowed to talk about that show that you're writing for right now?
Oh, sure. I'm actually, the writing for that is done. It is.
Oh.
I wrote for a show. I wrote for Thundercats Roar. It's the new Thundercats. It's the new Thundercats show. But it is. We're not sure when we're premiering yet. So just follow me.
If the queer agenda ends up in that show anywhere, we'll have you on for a follow-up about that.
I would love that.
That would be great.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. Thanks again all for joining us. I'm Madeline Hops. I am at rabbit_is_dead on Twitter. I'm in the middle of moving hell, which is great. We also discovered that the place we moved to has rats. So I've commenced Operation Feifel Goes to Hell. And hopefully we'll find a way to nice rat trap those. Also, too, I am streaming on Twitch at rabbit_is_dead, and hopefully once I have some free time, I'll be finishing up a radio play script to be a joint podcast with a sister podcast, but I will reveal more of that later.
I'm Ree Carter at RHICARTER. I'm making video games over at Dead Genre Studios, and we just started a new project, so I'll be posting hopefully lots from that and by my other games that I've made.
I'm Amy Blair. I'm at Lavender Ashtray on Twitter. I just like looking for a place to live right now. Working, it's boring. I don't really have anything to plug. Well,
you have hot political takes.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of plugs,
nothing to plug except myself. It's too horny for the podcast.
This is the best. We're the best at podcasts. All right. Thanks all again for joining us. And depending on what the release schedule looks like, we'll either see you in about a week or 2 weeks, or who the hell knows. We could all die in this earthquake that's apparently happening in LA, and you'll never hear from us or see us again. So we love you all.
Bring the earthquake to Vancouver.
Please don't. Please don't. I recently reread that.
In Vancouver.
I reread that New Yorker article about the very big one. Like that Cascadia earthquake that's supposed to happen any second now, and like I am currently living in terror.
I live in the Vancouver Valley now, so I'm okay. I'm inland enough but y'all are buffed.
The river will swell up.
Mm-hmm.
It will be flooded.
All right. Well, if anybody's listening to this, we may be looking for a third new host soon. Once Amy's untimely demise.
Yeah, if you're looking for a third, just go on Tinder.
looking for a unicorn for our podcast. Podcaster seeking podcaster.
Thanks all again for joining us, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.